I'm Dave Holcomb. Got another exciting show for you today. Josh Allen got a big payday a couple of days ago. It might have been yesterday. So we're going to break that down. I think maybe revisit the 2018 draft class for quarterbacks. That was a big class with 5 guys going in the first round and really varying results from all 5 guys. So that might be fun to revisit today.
Sure.
And a big Hall of Fame weekend for, should I say, pro football, since it's the Pro Football Hall of Fame, not the NFL Hall of Fame. But a big weekend for the NFL in their Hall of Fame class. Because of COVID last year, they didn't have the induction ceremony for the 2020 class. So and the 2020 class was extra large, celebrating the anniversary of the NFL. So we've got the big 2020 class and the 2021 class going in tomorrow.
Right. Yeah. And incredible class. I mean, a lot of worthy guys, but a few that I wouldn't have put in myself. But, I'm never one to shy away from an opinion, Dave.
I'm looking forward to, again, even though, most people want to talk about these, the accolades for all these guys and how they're so deserving. And some of the players, it's a finally, they've been waiting for a really long time and finally they're getting in. But you're here to remind us which guys aren't deserving.
Well, of course. That's what I do.
Ryan's here. He wants to talk about Falcons football. We will talk Falcons football as well. There is a scrimmage practice at Mercedes-Benz Stadium today at 2 p.m. I will be in attendance for Falcon Report, writing some articles on sportsillustrated.com. So check out that a little bit later today. And we'll talk about that a little bit today too, Tom.
Yeah, I mean, every team has got to get that one practice in front of their fans before they start preseason. The Bears had theirs last week, and today the Falcons are going to show off for the fans a little bit. So it's always fun to get everybody out there, for fans to get out into the home stadium and see their guys and get ready for the season. I mean, we're going.
So I'm curious, was it $5 to go to the Bears scrimmage practice? Did they have it at Soldier Field?
They had it at Soldier Field. There was more of a lottery for tickets.
Okay.
Not everybody could go, but yeah, I mean, it's a good day. I mean, it's worth it for, spend an evening out there and see the guys run through drills and kind of get excited for all those, the guys who were drafted, all the young players, all the guys who were brought in. And, I mean, for one day out of the entire year, you can look on the field and see your team as a possible Super Bowl contender. So, I mean, that's kind of what it is for every team in the NFL. You look down, you say, boy, if this guy, if they could all have career years, we might actually be in the Super Bowl this year.
Right. Yeah. I asked about the tickets because it was $5. I'm going actually as a fan. I'm going to sit in the stands, but I'm writing from the stands. Love that everybody is completely sleeping on us. That's true, Brian. No one talking about Falcons being a serious contender this year. Hopefully they can creep up on people. Heard the handling fee. Yes, I was just about to get into that, Compass Precision. The handling fee so I bought a ticket. I'm going as a fan. It was a $5 ticket. And then the handling fee, service charge, was $5.
Okay. Wow.
I mean, it's $10. It's not that big of a deal. I think my boss is going to reimburse me for it. But the service charge was 100% of the cost.
Yeah. And that's getting ridiculous itself. I mean, we could probably do a whole show just kind of cracking down on the ticket, your ticket websites and everything else, and the fees that you got to pay just to go see a game anymore. It gets ridiculous. But other than that, this is a good day. This is a fun day. I mean,
right.
You got all these guys wearing gold jackets who are going to give their speeches or get their moment in the sun, and that's always a good thing. Hall of Fame weekend's always fun.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's a big weekend for a lot of people. I'm going to give a shout out to my Steelers. There's a lot of representation in black and gold this week.
Yeah. Donnie Shell, Troy Polamalu,
Yeah.
He has been cleared to give his speech. he had COVID-19. He was actually
Right.
there was talk that he might not be able to attend on stage, and but he has been medically cleared to give a speech. He's fine. Um, Alan Faneca, my God, yeah, you guys are really
Yeah, as a scout, Bill Nunn, Bill Cower.
yeah,
It's
Bill
a
Coward, a former
yeah,
head coach. And
it's a
I'm
big.
surprised it's taken Coward this long, actually.
Are you that it took him? I
Yeah,
mean,
I think Coward should have gone in earlier.
oh, okay. Yeah, I guess it's funny. I think when he retired in Pittsburgh, anyway, he was. I think he's more beloved now than he was when he was coaching, and I guess that
Yeah.
might be the case in other cities as well. Like I think where Mike Tomlin is right now, the criticism that Mike Tomlin receives for underachieving in the playoffs and not doing enough in January, blah blah blah. That's what Bill Cowher was getting throughout his career until he won the Super Bowl in his second to last season. And now that Mike Tomlin has come in, I think I don't agree with these people, but I think there is a big crowd that is like, I wish we still had Bill Cowher. I mean, Bill Cowher is a much better coach than Mike Tomlin, and that they're both. I think they're both great, but the crowd that was criticizing Bill Cowher is the same crowd that's criticizing Mike Tomlin now and wants Bill Cowher back.
That's pretty much it, and that's always the case. You always get your fans. There's always that group of fans that do that. You're never going to get away from that. So, hey, considering what they accomplished, what Bill Cowher accomplished, what Mike Tomlin, has accomplished so far with the Steelers. The fact that the Steelers have only had 3 head coaches since 1970. I mean, that's pretty. That's what, 50 years now, 3 head coaches.
Yeah,
and you just don't do that anymore. So,
right. And it's not like it's just stability for stability. I mean, they've had success too.
They've had success, right? Exactly. Yeah. So, the head coach always gets all the blame. The head coach always gets all the credit. I don't know. Does he get all the credit? He gets a lot of the credit.
A lot of the credit.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
He does. There's a couple of head coaches. Well, one head coach on this Hall of Fame list who I think got a little more credit than he deserved, but that's just me.
Well, let's get into that. I'm guessing you're going to say Jimmy Johnson.
No,
not Jimmy Johnson.
No,
okay, which coach are you saying?
Tom Flores.
Got too much credit.
Yeah.
Really?
The number of winning seasons that he finished with. Yeah, he finished with 2 Super Bowl wins. One of those with a team that essentially John Madden put together, or was responsible for, and did nothing in Seattle. Was brought into Seattle to rebuild that team, and really kind of, he was coach and player personnel. I think he was president of the team for a while, and never really showed much improvement in Seattle. I think Tom Flores, I don't know. He's always been a more impressive name to other people than he has been to me. He has a lot of sub 500 seasons for being a Hall of Fame coach. And I don't have his profile up right in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
I could go back for it, I guess.
I guess the conversation changes because he's now in the Hall of Fame, but I always felt he was underrated. And the argument was he's never mentioned among, the good head coaches or great head coaches, and he's won 2 Super Bowls. But you're saying basically he's the Eli Manning of head coaches? Yeah. Is that what you're telling me?
That's what I'm saying. Let's see. Coached 12 years.
Brian says he would get swooped up immediately if ever free. I think Brian's talking about Tomlin. Yes, Mike Tomlin. Yeah, I take Mike Tomlin as coach.
Oh, yeah. I think he will too. I think Tomlin will actually go into the broadcast booth. I think he'll be done with coaching when he's done with the Steelers. But if he puts himself on the market, if the Steelers do decide to move on from him, yeah, they're going to line up for Mike Tomlin.
Yeah, the Steeler fans might want to move on from him, but the Steelers will never. I can't say never, but it's very, very, very unlikely the Steelers ever move on from Mike Tomlin.
Yeah. So they're
It would
never going to.
it would take multiple 3-4 win seasons in a row for the
Yeah.
Steelers to fire a coach. They have not fired a coach since the Super Bowl era started.
That's right.
So it's just not going to happen unless it's
No.
just a disaster. Unless the team becomes a disaster, and Tomlin has never had a losing season, so I don't see multiple 3-4 win seasons in a row.
See, to me, Jimmy Johnson made that Cowboys team. Yeah, they went through a bad first season, but he made the trade that got the Cowboys all the draft picks that they needed
Yeah,
to rebuild that team quick, and made some great decisions on player personnel. Uh, got everybody in to, and turned that team into a powerhouse. That was a dynasty.
right.
And yeah, I mean, Barry Switzer is credited with a Super Bowl win, but that was Johnson's team. And Jerry Jones is the one who actually is responsible for that team falling off. Jerry Jones decided that Johnson was getting probably too much of the spotlight, and that was it. Johnson ended up on the outs with his former good buddy, and
Yeah,
the Cowboys have been nothing ever since because Jerry Jones has been trying to run that team.
they were really good friends, Johnson and
They're very close friends.
Jones. Yeah.
That's when Jones came in, one of the first things he did was fire Tom Landry, brought in Johnson. So, I mean, and Johnson performed. Johnson did it. But as I say, you get too much of the spotlight down in Dallas. Old Jerry doesn't like that. So
I think I've recommended this show to you before, and now it's a little bit older. But have you seen the America's Game documentary?
no, I haven't. You're right. I still have to.
You really need to. And they talk about this in the 1993 Cowboys episode. I didn't think they addressed it as much as I would have liked. I still feel like, I mean, they didn't interview Jerry Jones. They were only interviewing Jimmy Johnson. Brian, you're absolutely right. Pittsburgh doesn't fire coaches.
Fire coaches.
So it was just from Jimmy Johnson's perspective. And actually, from what I remember, I haven't watched the episode in a while, but he said something along the lines of he felt like he had a lot of success and it was time for a new challenge. And he kind of put it on. He didn't blame Jerry Jones, at least in this interview. He really said that he was ready to move on and do something else.
I see. Okay, because
it was interesting. I'm not saying that's 100% the truth. I'm not saying that what you're saying is wrong. I think what you're saying makes a lot more sense. Why would you want to leave after winning 2 Super Bowls in a row?
And that team wasn't done.
Yeah.
I mean, that team was still in its prime.
Right.
With Aikman and
Emmitt Smith.
And that and Irvin, that team was still, going strong. That team was primed for a couple more wins. And just the fact that I don't think Jerry Jones and Jimmy Johnson have really talked since Johnson was coach of the Cowboys. It always seemed to me like there's a lot of bad blood there.
Yeah.
After Johnson left the Cowboys. Now, maybe Johnson's just trying to kind of smooth it over, but I don't think, to me, it's always been, Jerry Jones' ego. And with the Cowboys, it's always been Jerry Jones' ego.
Right.
And that's why that ego, why that team can't support his ego. They can't play up to his ego. So it's just, that's why they've had troubles ever since.
Right.
He thinks he's a general manager.
Mm-hmm.
I've always told you the story about Jim Finks and his philosophy about being about the way a front office, the way a team's organization should be set up, and basically his advice was owners own.
Right.
Managers manage. Coaches coach. You don't want to see the owner on the sidelines, giving instructions to the coach. You don't want to see the owner thinking that he's the personnel man. You get somebody who knows what they're doing to be your personnel man. All right, you made money. Yeah, you made billions. You're an NFL owner, but that doesn't mean that you know anything about football too.
So you're saying you don't support the Cameron Diaz owners from any given Sunday?
No, I wouldn't. I
No?
wouldn't.
You didn't care for a character?
I wouldn't. Well, I mean, in a movie, I mean that's fine. I mean, come on.
What an absurd movie that was. I saw it for the first time a few weeks ago.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, a movie that works, and when it comes to the NFL, when it comes to real life, no, you don't want to see your owner getting involved in anything.
Right.
Let them be the face of the franchise, and don't make coffee in the locker room. Finks told George McCaskey that. Just said, don't make coffee, don't do anything, don't come into the locker room. You stay up there, you do your owner things. So, and I've always, I know some of my views are maybe a little bit older fashioned now. You got this young guys coming up like you and Mad Mike and everybody else coming up. I'm kind of like the old man in the business, but I think some of it still applies. Yeah,
I do too.
I think it applies to every business. When it comes down to being a businessman.
Yes.
Get the people who are good at what you do, at what you hire the people you want in a position. Get out of their way and let them do it. You hired them for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
So get out of their way and let them do it. You got enough to do as an owner. Don't think that you're a general manager too, because you're not. And Jerry Jones has proved that.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you, even being, a younger generation, millennial guy.
You're a millennial?
I am a millennial, yeah.
Oh my God, what the hell am I doing here?
That wasn't a serious question. I'm I was born right in the middle of millennial generation. There's no way I'm not a millennial.
Oh my God. Oh, Dave. No wonder.
I find it interesting, I'm going sidetracked here. I find it, I was reading about millennials a few months ago, and they define it as 1981 to 1996 or something.
Something like that, yeah.
My cousin was born December 1980. So is he not a millennial? He missed it by 10 days. He doesn't have the same generational experience as me. He's in the previous generation. I think that's kind of ridiculous. But
well, see, that's kind of like me, because technically I would say, depending on your definition, I'm still a baby boomer. But I was born so late, in that trend that you can't really make that claim.
You don't have the same beliefs as the baby boomers, the real baby boomers.
Right. To me, the baby boomers are the post-war generation through about, late 50s, and that's it. But, I get lumped in with them, called no man and all this other stuff. So, but hey, what can I say?
Sounds like you have resentment for the boomers as well.
I is who I is.
Resentment's coming from you. Just to be clear, to all our older watchers.
I'm going kicking and screaming into that older. It's not getting me easily.
So the rest of this class, let's start positively.
Yes.
What great players stand out to you? What guys did you look at? And I guess the obvious one is Peyton Manning, but
Peyton Manning, of course.
Yeah.
Faneca, I thought for a long time has deserved to get in, and I've talked him up for quite a long time. There was the log jam at offensive line where you had Kevin Maue and Steve Hutchinson and Alan Faneca. Faneca is basically the final one in that group that actually deserves to make it, that I was happy to see finally get in. But he's deserved it for a long time.
Yeah.
Charles Woodson. I mean, you're really going to deny Charles Woodson? When I wrote about who should get busted, I mean, Woodson was one of the obvious guys. He
first ballot guy.
Manning, yeah, we're definitely going to be first ballot.
Him and Peyton Manning are connected at the hip forever. I mean,
yes.
Woodson beat him out for the Heisman Trophy, and I think that was 1998.
Yeah.
They came in the same year, right? Were they in the same draft class? Or was Woodson a year earlier? Maybe Woodson was a year earlier.
I think Woodson was a year earlier.
So they weren't in the same draft class, but their careers pretty much spanned the same length and the exact same time, going all the way back to college, and they retired the same year, and now they're going into the Hall of Fame together.
Right. So yeah, my only negative when I wrote my article about predicting who would be in the Hall of Fame this year was that Woodson helped the Green Bay Packers win a Super Bowl. That's the only thing I can hold against him. There's not much you can say. My only negative for Peyton Manning was he has the same number of Super Bowl wins as his brother. So, he and Eli are tied in the Manning family with 2.
I mean, at least he got that second one.
Yes, he did get the second one. It was going to be interesting to see if he never got that second one.
Right.
And he got that second one because of defense.
It's true.
He didn't win that second one.
That's very true.
He was one of the worst quarterbacks in the league that year.
And he was hurt. He
was hurt, right?
And he was healthy in Week 17 in a game Denver had to win for home field advantage, and he did not start.
Yes, I know.
Brock Osweiler started.
Osweiler started, yes. Yeah, we see what happened to Osweiler. Osweiler got a big contract from the Houston Texans, and he's still living off of that, I think. If he invested it well, he's set for life. Because he can't play football. Nobody wants him to play quarterback for them anymore.
Right.
Calvin Johnson, I believe, was definitely a Hall of Famer. Guy was one of the best at catching balls in double coverage. What he did for Matthew Stafford as a wide receiver, you just can't overstate. Because you could put 2 guys on him, front and back, and I'll be damned if Woodson still wouldn't come. If Johnson still wouldn't come down with that ball. And I thought maybe he wouldn't make it this year. I actually thought Torrey Holt was going to go in this year. Well, because Torrey Holt was actually the best receiver on those Rams teams. Isaac Bruce is getting in.
Right. He got in last year.
Yeah, Isaac Bruce, but he wasn't even the best receiver on his team, let alone the best receiver of his era. Torrey Holt was the best receiver on his team and one of the best receivers of his era. So I'm not a big fan of the Isaac Bruce, but hey, these things happen. But I thought Johnson might get, sometimes you get the Hall of Fame voters get a little upset if you retire, 2 or 3 years early, if you don't finish off your career. See Patrick Willis, if you want an example of that, linebacker with the 49ers, who should also be in the Hall of Fame, but retired early. Yeah. And Johnson still had a couple of years left in him. And normally in a Hall of Fame vote, you do get penalized. The voters do tend to penalize guys who retire early. This time they look at the talent and they saw the talent and they went ahead and voted them in.
I would think they're going to have to change that philosophy because there are more and more people retiring early.
They will definitely.
You already said Patrick Willis. That's a great example of someone who should be in the Hall of Fame. Luke Kuechly, I can't say his last name.
Kuechly, yeah.
Kuechly. Say it again. Kuechly. He retired early. Absolutely should be in the Hall of Fame as well one day.
And he will.
We'll see if it takes him a little bit longer, though.
But as I say, there's normally a 1-year penalty for retiring early. It's just the way it is. It's the way they do things.
Yeah.
So
was this year Patrick Willis's first year? I think it was his second.
I think this was his second, and he only made the semifinalist list. He didn't even make it through the finals.
All right.
So, he's got one more stage to go. He's going to be in. That's the thing. If you're a Hall of Famer, why do you penalize him for certain things? It seems petty to me.
Well, I think the way they do it, and this is true for all sports, although I can't speak too much about basketball and hockey. I don't know a whole lot about their Hall of Fame processes. But baseball and the Pro Football Hall of Fame, it's just so political in that
yes, it is.
the way they do it, the way they've structured it is the best way to get a debate started on shows like ours. The best way to do it is 5 years after you're retired, look at everybody who retired 5 years prior and either check the box yes or no for that person. And they vote, and you vote on that person one time. Wouldn't that be the best way? That's a very good point.
Well,
No.
I think you're going to lose guys, though. You're still going to lose guys. You're going to have guys who probably, at some point you do get to a point where, with the senior committee and with going back and re-examining some careers, you kind of edge into that territory where you're in the Hall of the very good, and they're still getting elected to the Hall of Fame.
Right.
Now I think there's a difference. And yet my definition kind of goes along with what you just said, Dave. Are you one of the most dominant players over the course of your era at your position? And that's kind of what I look at. Were you one of the guys that, got all the attention, that got the Pro Bowls, the All Pros, that got, one of the recognized outside and inside the game as one of the best at his position.
Right.
And, let's take somebody who I say wasn't and is still going in, is John Lynch.
I was waiting. I've heard all of these arguments before. The Tom Flores one surprised me, but I've heard your Isaac Bruce take, and I'm ready for your John Lynch one.
Yeah. Oh, here's Tom. Flores' teams finished under 500 in 5 of his 12 seasons as head coach. So, it's, to me, that he's a little shaky. But John Lynch wasn't even the best safety on any of the teams he played on. All right. Let alone, you want to talk about best safeties of his era? He didn't establish himself as a strong safety in Tampa until his 4th season. All right. He didn't even he wasn't even a starter his first 2 years. Shared the starting job his 3rd season. Couldn't beat out Marty Carter. Is Marty Carter a Hall of Famer, by the way? No, I don't think so.
No, he's not.
He also, as a safety, there's enough years where they have enough counting numbers available. Lynch does not qualify as far as tackles. As far as he's known as a hard hitter.
Right. Yeah, that's what he's known for.
Qualify as far as the actual tackles he made. I think he stayed as a finalist because he kept himself in everybody's eye, in everybody's mind, as the general manager of the San Francisco 49ers. And before that, he was a broadcaster.
Yeah.
So he always had him around. And that always kind of kept him and everybody's thought process. That's why he made a finalist for 7 straight years. And to me, he should have been a finalist for 8 straight years. Leroy Butler should have been the safety that went in this year. All right. Former Packers safety. And Steve Atwater went in finally.
Right.
As I say, Steve Atwater was actually the best safety on that Broncos team that won the Super Bowl. Not Lynch. Lynch always gets a lot of publicity for being on those Broncos teams and for being on the Buccaneers team that won the Super Bowl. Atwater was the best safety on those teams.
Lynch, I don't think Lynch played with Atwater. Lynch wasn't on the 97-98 Broncos.
Wasn't he? Oh, God. Did I just make a fool out of myself? All right, I got to look this up.
I don't know. Atwater, I think, was ending his career when I was getting into football in the late 90s. And Lynch was on the Bucs then, Buccaneers.
Denver.
I guess I'm going to push back a little bit more and talk about John Lynch while you're looking for
Kenoy Kennedy was the safety on that team. Okay. But still, I mean, John Lynch never had any of the leading tackle numbers on his team. And he's a free safety. So, it didn't have interception numbers that made him a Hall of Famer.
He made 2 All-Pros. So, I mean, maybe he's not leading his team in tackles, but I know he also made 9 Pro Bowls, and I know you've said to me in the past Pro Bowls don't mean anything. So, okay, I won't use that as an argument. But he made 2 All-Pros. Maybe that's not enough for Hall of Fame, but in those 2 seasons, he was the best safety in the league, according to the people who voted for
the AP, yeah.
Yeah.
Leroy Butler should have been in. All-Pro 4 times, Pro Bowls 4. Was the leader of the Packers defense that made the playoffs in 7 of 9 seasons. Now, see, I don't know. And I think in the Steve Atwater was on the same balance as John Lynch, but was the better safety. And not necessarily the same team. That's kind of what threw me.
Yeah.
As I say,
technically, Atwater did get in first. He got in 2020.
And he should have. He was a better safety.
Yeah.
But as I say, Leroy Butler should have been in. He was the better safety. Lynch goes into every election season as not even the best safety in that class, let alone one of the best safeties of his. I know I'm never going to win this fight.
No.
Falcons fans, do you think John Lynch actually makes it? Is John Lynch a Hall of Famer to you? You saw him twice a year. Yeah.
I think it's a classic example of, what do you value? Do you value dominance for a short period, or do you value a long career? John Lynch had 9 Pro Bowls. That's a lot of years where he was pretty good to great. And he had 2 seasons where he was the best. Leroy Butler had 4 seasons where he was the best, 4 Pro Bowls. So he didn't have as many very good seasons.
Okay. Here it is. I keep getting Steve Atwater confused with Rondé Barber. Rondé Barber was on the same defense as John Lynch. Rondé Barber was one of the finalists in this year's Hall of Fame class. Rondé Barber should be a Hall of Famer over John Lynch. If you're gonna put a safety in, John Lynch was the 3rd best safety in this class. All right, 4th best defensive back in this class, and he's going to go into the Hall of Fame. Rondé Barber or Leroy Butler should have been in this class over John Lynch, and that's just my opinion. As I say, I think Barber, only player in NFL history to record at least 45 interceptions and 25 sacks in a career. Also leads the NFL's all-time leader in sacks for a cornerback. When he was playing corner instead of safety. But, he played kind of like a mixture, too. He was a hybrid. But, was voted Buccaneers team captain 9 times in his 16-year career. Over Lynch. So, this is Barber's first season as finalist, but still, I mean, when you're not even the best player, and this goes for Isaac Bruce too, when you're not even one of the most dominant players on your team in your era, and you don't go into the Hall of Fame, you're in the Hall of the Very Good. We'll talk about you. We'll remember you fondly, your career, but you don't deserve the gold jacket, and I think only the special players really deserve the gold jacket. And sometimes it is dominance over a short period of time. Like Gale Sayers, who was one of the best running backs the league had ever seen until he injured his knee, but he went in because of the fact that nobody had ever seen a talent like his before.
Right.
Terrell Davis was one of the best running backs you're ever going to want to see.
Right.
Combination of power and speed, elusiveness. He had 3 of the most dominant seasons you're ever going to see out of a running back, but couldn't keep it going. He had injury problems, and
Right.
and lost it. And Terrell Davis was finally recognized as a Hall of Famer, just for the fact that at his best, he was the best in the NFL at his position. It may not have lasted long. And I think Tony Baselli is actually going to get that Terrell Davis, Gale Sayers exception one of these days at left tackle. Tony Baselli's going to go in.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, injuries ended his career, but definitely one of the best linemen in NFL history, and needs to be recognized. And the only reason he isn't recognized, one thing, because he's a tackle, and again, we talked about this. We keep talking about this with Mike Ken. No counting stats, which is one of the problems, but definitely one of the best, regarded among his peers as one of the best tackles in the NFL. So, that's another thing you got going for him. Among his peers, he was one of the best. So, I think he's going to get that exception. It might take a while. By the way, Mike Ken, we're still waiting for the senior era candidates for 2022. I looked up something for Mike Ken, another argument for him. If you look at the but there's no perfect set. Yeah, I know that, Brian. Everything has its flaws and always will. But if it disagrees with me, then I guess it's flawed.
Yeah.
Weighted career approximate value, Mike Ken is 12th among all NFL tackles all time. All right. That's ahead of Art Shell, Jonathan Ogden, Bob Brown, Rayfield Wright, Dan Deerdorf, all in the Hall of Fame.
Mm.
And Mike Ken is not in the Hall of Fame. With Anthony Munoz and Joe Jacoby, I would say Mike Ken was one of the dominant players of his era at his position.
Right.
So let's go get Mike Ken. We're still waiting to hear about the senior nominee for 2022. Let's give a listen to Mike Ken. 2121 George Hallis Drive. You got a right to the Hall of Fame. You get a pencil. You got to scribble. You don't have to write in cursive. Okay, you don't have to write in cursive. You can write. You can print. That's fine. Or you can type it up on your Word and then hit print and print it off on your computer if you don't want to write. But these things can be done. But you send that nomination, Mike Ken. I want to see Mike Ken, nominated by the senior committee for the Pro Football Hall of Fame or whatever. Or Mike Ken is one of the greatest left tackles of all time, or whatever you want to say. Mike Ken is a good personal friend of mine, and I want to see him in the Hall. Whatever. It doesn't matter. All you got to do is put his name and send it to 2021 George Hallis Drive, Northwest, NW, Canton, Ohio, 44708. All right. This is your guy. 17 years bleeding red and black. So, let's do something for him, because he went out and excelled on a lot of bad Falcons teams. So he put out the effort for you. You put out the effort for him. Let's see this happen. Let's make it happen. All right.
Absolutely. Yep. Let's make that happen. Brian really wants us to talk about the Falcons. Brian, send us the topic you want to discuss the most, and we'll get to that first. While we're, yeah, he says, I saw that comment come across. I want to briefly talk about Josh Allen. I also want to give a shout out to Troy Polamalu. While Brian gives us a topic to start with the Falcons, we were talking safety, so I figured let's end our Pro Football Hall of Fame discussion, me expressing my admiration for my favorite player I ever saw on TV, or I guess in person. I saw him a couple times. Troy Polamalu. Absolutely loved him. Class act. Never got in any trouble off the field.
Yep.
Perfectly embodied the Steelers and the city of Pittsburgh. He will always be my favorite player, at least from my era. I have a favorite player I never saw play. That's Jack Lambert. My favorite player that I saw play is Troy Polamalu. And I'm so happy to see him get into the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Well, see, to me, Troy Polamalu was a no-doubter.
Yes.
There was just no doubt about it. He has the stats. He has the on-field reputation, recognition. Off-field, you're right. I mean, just a treasure off the field for the Pittsburgh community, and a guy that you really do root for and want to see. I always have favorite players on other teams. Even though I'm a Bears fan, I still have favorite players that I like to see succeed on other teams. Troy Polamalu is one because I just loved the way he played.
Yeah.
Not the way he played football.
Yep.
He left everything out on the field every week. And definitely a great shout out to him. A couple of guys I also want to shout out just because I think they deserve it. I don't know why it took so long to get them into the Hall of Fame. Steve Sable of NFL Films. All right, the NFL is not the NFL without NFL Films. All right, one of the reasons why the NFL owns the sports media these days is because of Steve Sable and what he was able to do with NFL Films. And everything you see, your season wrap-ups, you look back at historical teams. NFL Films has a film archive that I think rivals the size of a small town. I once saw a film. Their archives is just incredible what they have available to them. And I tell you about the Bears. The Bears, George Halas hated NFL Films at first. Always thought that NFL Films was trying to steal, game plans or plays from the Bears. Did not. Yes, Sable is a no-brainer. It should have been a no-brainer a long time ago. And Sable took the small amounts of footage that he had of the Bears, because the Bears were one of the toughest teams he could get because he wasn't allowed on their sidelines. Halas would always drive him away. Always drive the cameramen away. Sable put together a film of the Bears, and Halas was in love with NFL Films ever since. He really saw what NFL Films, and kind of came up with the quote about carrying the torch of the NFL. Is NFL Films. That's what they do. And Sable, I don't know why it's taken so long to get Sable, but he should have been in a long time ago. So that's the one guy I really wanted to bring up, in addition to some of the players that we've talked about.
Well, let's get to the Falcons. Brian wants us to talk about Dean Pease and the defense. And Tom, I wanted to ask you, kind of put you on the spot a little bit, if you don't mind. What do you look for in a scrimmage practice like today, if you're a fan in attendance or a fan, just trying to read about your team? What do you want to see your team accomplish in a practice like today, and skew your answer towards the defense for our listeners?
Okay, I want to see, as far as young guys, I want to see guys who are going after it. I want to see the effort. Because you're going to see a lot of guys who are trying to make the team. The vets who you're not really looking at. I want to see what kind of effort the young guys are bringing. I want to see who has a nose for the football. Football's going one direction. I want to see who's has that feel for where the football's going. Especially in the secondary, safeties and cornerbacks. Do you know where the ball's going? Are you easily fooled? If you're getting if they're giving you misdirection, are you fooled? Are you running the other direction? Do you have an instinct for the game? Because physically, you're not going to see much today. This is just a show. And as I say, the young guys are always on. They have to be always on. They have to keep getting the coach's attention. Look at who the coaches are kind of giving instruction to. Who are the coaches pulling aside and talking to? Those are the guys that they're interested in, that they want to see um, that the coaches want to see succeed. And if they're pulling somebody aside and saying, "Hey, you got to do this, watch this. You were fooled on that last play. Look at this key, look at these keys." Um, if a coach is talking to them, uh, be assured that AJ Terrell might be a little early for me to call him a lockdown corner. I think he is going to be a top cornerback. I do agree with you. I like Terrell. I think he was a good pickup for the Falcons. But again, the problem again with the Falcons is pass rush. You can lock down, but only for so long. And receivers are going to make adjustments.
Well, it would help. I mean, this isn't how we like to structure our teams. We like to get the pass rush to help the secondary.
Right.
But it would help if the secondary could play a little bit better. That would help the pass rush.
Right.
And if Terrell can be a shutdown corner, I think it is. I agree with you, Tom. I think he's going to be very good. We'll see if he becomes lockdown. It would be great if he does, though, because that would help the pass rush. And I want to see what Richie Grant does today. The second round pick. Everybody's talking about Kyle Pitts and how he replaces Julio Jones. And of course, there's tons of storylines around that. And Kyle Pitts might be a real generational type talent. We talked about this many times. It's going to be great for fantasy teams. But Richie Grant is a piece that Falcons fans really want to work out to help that defense that desperately needs more playmakers.
Yeah, and your first and second, your second and third round picks are guys who should be solid starters. They're the guys who should step in and be a starter from day one and actually contribute. So yeah, that's another thing. Look at your top draft choices and see how they're reacting on the field. How quick are they getting off the ball? Fractions of seconds count when it comes to the NFL. You have got to be, the game speeds up. That's the thing. Who is getting used to that game speed? Who's falling behind? Because now you're not in college anymore. So the game has gotten a lot quicker on you, and decisions have gotten a lot quicker you have to make. So it's a lot of what you want to look at as far as the defense goes. And I think Terrell's going to probably make a good showing today. You'll probably find him kind of battling with Ridley and Gage and kind of playing, against each other. But and I think I would say AJ Terrell's going to have a good showing. So it's just, it's hard to kind of pick things out right now because it's still very early.
Yeah.
You're still trying to judge what you have. But as I say, some of the technical stuff, who's getting off the ball, who looks like they have a nose for the football, who looks like they have that sense. How well does Richie Grant play with AJ Terrell? So,
yeah, right.
How's the communication in the secondary? Because you don't have Keanu Neal back there to kind of run things. So you need a safety who's going to communicate well in the secondary. So, but I would say, how well does Grant and how well does Terrell, how well do they match up with their counterparts on offense, and can they get the quick break on the ball? I mean, Grant, is he closing his hips before he makes before his receiver makes his breaks, and closing his hips, he's falling behind. You want to stay open with the wide receiver, and it's is the wide receiver turning you around, basically. So, and these guys are going up against a wide receiver group that's been together for a while.
Yeah.
So you're going to see, you're going to see Gage, and I know I'm leaving some names off the list. Ridley, Gage. Give me some more names there, Dave.
Alameda Zaccheaus, love that name.
Yes, I love it. Zaccheaus is, if anybody can keep up with Zaccheaus, I think you're in good shape. Right. See who can run with Zaccheaus, because he's the fastest guy on the team.
Well, you made a great point about second round picks, and I brought up Richie Grant, this year's second round pick. Last year's second round pick, Marlon Davidson, also needs to step up and play a little bit better. He could help the pass rush as well. He could be a solution, part of the solution. I don't know if he's not like, I don't think his potential is all pro pass rusher, but he could help out that pass rush being a solid starter, which you get out of your second round picks. You just made that point. Last year, he didn't make any starts as a rookie.
Right. Now, as I was reading some of the recaps of the Falcons' first week of practice, and I had a busy week of work, so sometimes, I only get to read on Fridays and Saturday mornings. But I was hearing Steve Means has been one of the better defensive linemen out of the week. But exactly, Dave, that's the issue. That's the problem. Not keeping Casey, yeah, but salary cap issue. They didn't keep Casey because of salary cap. You couldn't afford him. So, yeah.
Well, you were saying about Davidson? Davidson.
Yeah. Davidson has got to be the guy that you're hearing out of camp who is making that kind of impression. I don't want to hear what Means is doing. I don't care. All right. If I'm hearing that Davison is making some headway and looking sharp and getting around the corner and looking like he's starting to make an impact in camp, that's what you got to see, because he's a second round pick. He's got to be a starter. All right. The guy has got to be a starter or he's failed, or else you failed when you selected him.
You're absolutely right. And I also, people probably disagree with this, that at least people want to disagree with it. They want these rookies from the draft to come immediately into the NFL and make an impact. Sometimes, a lot of times, that doesn't happen. No. There is an adjustment period. Remember, last year there also wasn't the full off season. It was this, weird workouts, remote learning. So we're not writing off Marlon Davidson by any means, but we want to see him make that jump from year 1 to year 2. Normally, I would say that's when you make the biggest jump, from year 1 to year 2. You've now had a full year of being a professional athlete. You're not in school anymore. You're not taking classes. You're 100% football all the time, and you should be
working out. You've had the
right.
You've had all the health coaches, the dietary advice.
You know what it takes to be a pro at this point. You've gone through a full season, a full year of being in the NFL, and now you're ready to make the leap and make an impact if you didn't make one as a rookie. So that's why I want to see more out of Davidson.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I agree with you. And it's another guy you want to watch tonight. Take a look at him, see what he does, see how is he reacting off the ball. Is he getting off the ball? Is he getting locked up by the offensive lineman? That's another problem with defensive players. You may not be seeing them at full speed tonight, but can he make a move to get past your offensive lineman? Can he make a move to get past the tackle? Is he fast enough? Is he fast enough out of his crouch to get away? Once the lineman locks his hands into you, once he locks his hands under your shoulder pads, you're done. Mm-hmm. What are you doing to keep his hands away from your body, from your torso? Is he getting his hands under your pads? And if he is, then you haven't learned much yet.
Right.
All right. You haven't made it. You've got a lot to learn if that offensive lineman is still getting his hands under your pads and still getting his hands on you. Mm-hmm. And that was my problem with Leonard Floyd with the Bears at defensive end. Never showed. Once he got locked up, he was done. And he got locked up quite a bit, which is why I was not unhappy to see the Bears not, renew his option, let him go to the Rams. Now, he played well for the Rams last year, but,
we've talked about that before.
Said, the Aaron Donald effect.
Yeah.
So, So is Davis getting off the ball, fast? Is he getting off the ball as fast as the tackle? As fast as the guy opposite him? And can he make a move? Can he make a swim move? Can he use his arms and kind of, push the lineman back? That's the kind of things you want to see. What has he learned as far as technique?
Right.
And I would say the same thing, out of their other two draft picks this year, Graham and don't ask me to pronounce that other name, fifth round pick.
If you can't pronounce it, I can't pronounce it. So I guess we'll have to work on that name.
Basically, as you're looking at the defensive line, who's getting off the ball and who's keeping their defender, who's keeping their offensive lineman away from them, who's able to fight off blocks, and you start getting an idea for who's going to be seeing time once you start preseason games, because you're going to start getting an idea of who the coaches want to see on the field, who they want to get that next look at. You can't always tell everything from a preseason game because you got to look at the guys on the opposite side of the ball.
Yeah.
But again, you're looking at fundamentals, and what has he learned since being in training camp. So that's a lot of what you want to try and look at today.
As I mentioned at the top of the show, I'm going to the practice at 2:00, so we're going to end right here a few minutes early, a few minutes shy of an hour, so I can drive into Atlanta, get a parking spot, and hopefully make it on time at Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
Yeah, that should be a great time.
Yeah.
It should be fun. It's always fun to finally get out there and get out to the stadium and see the team and see everybody practice. And it's football season now. We got games every week. We got last Thursday.
That's what I told my wife Thursday night. I had the game on. I said the season just started.
Season started, right?
We will be back next Saturday, 12 p.m. Eastern time, 11 a.m. Central. I will not be here. I am getting married again on Saturday. I got married last year.
For the second time in 2 years. I mean, come on.
Second time in 2 years. We're gonna get married every single year. But no, this is our real wedding. But we got married last year. It got canceled because of COVID, postponed because of COVID. So we're doing the celebration, even though we're already married. We're doing the celebration next Saturday. So I will not be on the show.
This is Shannon, right?
This is Shannon. Yeah, same girl. Yeah.
Same one.
But Tom will be here, and I don't know. We haven't discussed yet if we're going to have a weekly, a special guest, a guest host with you or not. But you'll be here with the show at 12 o'clock.
Absolutely. I will be here. Come on, let's talk some football. I might even talk some Falcons next week. You never know.
Thanks for listening. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube, Facebook. Give us a like. Follow us on Twitter at TJ Pollen, at DM Holcomb. We'll see you next Saturday.